Am I the a-hole because I, 32 female, refused to put my boyfriend, 33 male, on my life insurance and left my ex, 33 male, on it? Plus update. Original post. I, 32 female, have an ex, 33 male, and we have 2 children, 10 female and 9 male. My ex and I had a difficult start in life. I felt pregnant pretty quickly after we started dating. Our daughter was born with leukemia, and we spent the first few years of our relationship in hospital. She's now in remission, thankfully. We also had another child during this time, and our son is autistic. After being together for 6 years, we split up indefinitely when our children were 6 and 5, which was very hard for me and him. After healing for about 1.5 years, I began dating my now boyfriend, who we'll call Jake. Jake was really lovely and kind, and took it slow with me. After a year, I introduced him to my kids. At first, my daughter was not very happy with the situation, but eventually she grew to tolerate him. Jake even has a civil relationship with my ex. Eventually, Jake moved in with my children and I, has been living with us for about 2 months now. When my daughter was born with leukemia, my ex and I had decided to both get separate life insurance just in case anything happened to us. When we originally got them, we decided that we would be each other's trustee. It also would receive 30% of the insurance and the rest would go on our child/children. After we had our son, we updated our life insurances with his name also on it. We have both still honored that. Our reasoning for this is that if one of us was to go while our children were still young, then the other would be left as a single parent and may need some support and stability. I still feel very strongly about this. Now on to the issue. Jake was cleaning up my files in my office when I was at work and had come across my life insurance agreement. While I was at work, he had sent me a message saying, "We need to discuss something important when you get home." Obviously, I was freaking out and tried calling him, but he would not answer me and said he was too angry to talk to me. I run my own business, so I took off early and drove home. Before I left, I messaged Jake to say I'm on my way home. When I arrived, I seen Jake on his sofa glaring at me when I arrived. He threw the life insurance papers at me and demanded to explain myself. I picked them up and asked what the problem was. He began to scream at me and said, "Why is your ex on your insurance that I'm not?" I explained to him my reasons above and he scoffed and said, "Well, you both make so much money now, you don't need to support one another." I was extremely angry at this and told him that it was not his business who I put in my life insurance. The money is mainly for my children and ex, and it will stay that way. Jake replied, "Well, I put so much work into this relationship, and I'm not going to get anything from it. No normal man would want a woman with 2 children who has issues." I saw red. I kicked him out and told him we were done. My children will always come first, and I will never let anyone get in the way of that. Jake packed his bags and left. While he was packing, he shouted at me that I never really got over my ex and we still love each other, blah blah blah. That he knew it from the start, and I'm such an a-hole for not putting him on my life insurance. So Reddit, I have to ask, am I the a-hole? Edit. I should have added that this did happen a few weeks ago. I haven't seen him since then, but constantly receiving messages from him and calls. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Gonna say not the a-hole, but also have to ask, has this situation come up before? Not the life insurance specifically, just him bringing up residual feelings for your ex, or a fear of getting uprooted and losing not just a partner, but at this point an entire family? The situation has never come up before. He does have his own children who are lovely. Him and his ex split because of insecurities on Jake's part. He constantly accused her of cheating and it tired her out. He has been cheated on before by a previous ex. I have tried telling him to get into therapy, but he refuses to go. He constantly compares himself to my ex and complaining I'm not over him. He says things like, "Oh, your ex is always around. Your ex didn't do this for you like I have. Your ex is better looking than me." My ex is around for our children and is a very active father. He was always there for me to help in the house, but since I've been with Jake, he only came around when it was about the children. I'm sorry you're in the situation you're in. Jake has to fix himself before he's ready for a relationship. And it sounds like you gave him stepping stones to do that, but he doesn't want to walk down the path. I hope everything works out for you, but you're definitely not the a-hole here. Not the a-hole. And his "I put so much into the relationship and get nothing out of it" when talking life insurance is alarming. I mean, we've seen enough forensic files to know what he meant. You dodged a heck of a bullet with that guy. The reality is, if you have primary custody after a divorce and pass away, most courts would grant a surviving parent custody. You did the right thing by ensuring your kids are still taken care of if that unfortunate event happens, especially since one child had health issues and the other has special needs. All the better that it at least sounds like you and your ex are able to co-parent. I can't possibly imagine that if something happened to you, Jake could have the kid's best interests at heart, and especially after his very telling reaction about the life insurance policy. Opie dodged a nuclear missile with the red flags Jake was waving around. I like how he was helpfully cleaning up her office and just happened upon her life insurance papers. Now for the mini update. So before I start with a little update, I want to say thank you for all the comments. I'm going to go through them all and try to reply even though it's a lot. I just want to address a few things. This did happen a few weeks ago and I did post in another group, but unfortunately got no advice on that subreddit. I'd left it for a few weeks before my ex suggested this one, because his words are, maybe these internet strangers would make you see sense and stop you thinking you're an a-hole. Also, could help you to see you shouldn't get back with Jake. Just wanted to clear that bit up. Firstly, I should have probably added this in the post. My ex and I are definitely not getting back together. We are very good friends, as I am with his husband. My ex always thought he was gay, but he is not from the UK and his parents would disapprove, which they have done so and cut ties with him. I was upset to start with, but loved them both dearly. I was even best woman at their wedding. So yes, I definitely am over my ex. My ex, his husband and I are currently having a lovely glass of wine and discussing the issues around Jake. For the people saying it's not right that I have my ex on my life insurance, let me just explain my point of view. Our son is autistic, so has a lot of issues around his autism. Our daughter, due to chemotherapy, is deaf in one ear and is currently in a wheelchair and has multiple appointments. I am very wealthy and my ex-partner is not. We opted to do private care to get the best for our children. I'm leaving him some money for our children and to help him and his husband financially if anything was to happen to me. I 10,000% trust my ex with our kids' money. My children will inherit all my properties and money. I do have a will, so everything in that sense is sorted. They have trust funds and never need to worry about their future. My life insurance is all my ex gets money from, and a few thousand from my own personal money, as does his husband. Now on to Jake. Currently, my ex, his husband and I are packing up Jake's things and they are going to take it to his parents' house. I informed his parents that Jake and I are no longer together and that we will drop off his stuff at their house. They were sad and wished me well as I did them. Jake continually called me and texted me, which I have ignored these past few weeks, and I ignored him. He has been pleading to me about taking him back and how much he loves me and my kids. However, just an hour ago, he sent the most vile messages I've ever had in my life, calling my daughter a spoiled dramatic little witch who uses her illness to get her way. He called my son some disgusting things, which I won't even repeat. At this point, I was done. I messaged him one final message, saying that if he continued to try reaching out to me, I will be filing for a protection order against him, and blocked him on all platforms. Also, I screenshotted the last message he sent and forwarded it to his ex and his family. I am very aware that it is petty, but I do not care. No one gets away with saying that about my children. I really think I will take a break from dating for a while and concentrate on me and my little family, which includes the father of my children and his husband. I'm so upset that there were red flags there that I just chose to ignore or was really oblivious to. Little edit. I know I said I wouldn't post what he said, but screw it. He's a horrible human and I've had a few glasses of wine. Lol. He called my daughter a cripple and called my son a retarded freak. So he can so screw himself. I'm probably just gonna leave this post now. Time to heal and focus on my beautiful kids. Thank you so much for all the comments and advice. I hope you are all blessed, and I appreciate everyone's opinions, advice, and support. I will definitely be taking a lot of points into my heart. Thank you. Last story. Am I the a-hole for calling my wife fat? Original post. I, 34 male, work in a physically demanding field. Myself and my coworkers are all fit people, without a lot of body type variety. My wife, 32 female, is fat. The thing is, she's always been fat. The whole time I've known her. We dated when she was fat, we got married when she was fat. She knows she's fat. She's fat and she's beautiful. I'm happy if she loses weight and I'm happy if she stays where she is. I think she's the most beautiful woman in the world as is. One of my coworkers, Julia, 28 female, started complaining that she's too fat to be loved, and fat people don't get to be loved. Julia isn't fat. She's maybe 120 pounds. She works out 5 times a week and barely ever eats. I told her that wasn't true and that my wife was fat. She got really red in the face and started telling me I wasn't allowed to call my wife fat, that I was insulting her and that my wife was beautiful and curvy. Carol doesn't like being called curvy. She thinks it's a label used to avoid calling people fat because it's a dirty word to most people. I told Julia as much and she started threatening to tell my wife I called her fat. She pulled up her Instagram and told me she was messaging Carol that I was being mean. I beat her to the punch and called my wife, put her on speaker, and asked if she was curvy or fat. Carol laughed and said, "I hate that curvy nonsense. Fat and beautiful, baby." I thanked her, told her I loved her, and hung up. As soon as I hit end, Julia went mental. She started screaming that I was abusing my wife. When I asked how, she said I was clearly brainwashing her into accepting the term fat to try to keep her complacent and from getting away from me. That no woman in her right mind could be okay with her husband calling them fat. I showed her a picture of my wife in a shirt that had BBW on it. She bought it for herself, by the way. She stormed off and hasn't spoken to me since. Now, I just walked in today to an email from HR requesting a meeting with me. I don't think it's a big deal. I have my wife's blog for fat positivity, the shirt, and can easily call her for proof. But now, things are frigid at work. And Julia constantly gives me dirty looks when we were in the same room. She ignores me otherwise. So I'm just over here scratching my head. Am I the a-hole for calling my wife fat? Now for the top comments before reading the update. The difference between your wife and Julia is that your wife loves herself. Julia can't even pretend to. Not the a-hole. Yep, the HR thing is wild. Imagine fishing for validation from a man, your married coworker, going off on him for loving his wife, threatening to DM her, and then reporting him to HR. Not the a-hole. If anything, Julia may be upset because she can't blame her insecurities on this idea of being fat. Or she uses this idea of body positivity to push others into expressing fat phobia she internalizes. Ding ding ding. The wildest thing is, Julia was fishing for validation from a married man, and then went off the deep end quickly. Julia is controlling, emotionally labile and passive-aggressive. Avoid and ignore as much as possible, OP. For reals, Julia was definitely fishing for compliments by calling herself fat, hoping the OP will confide about how his wife is fat and how he hates it. But she wasn't expecting OP to have a healthy marriage to a confident woman. Not the a-hole and your wife sounds awesome. Julia should get a better hobby because she sucks at fishing. My wife is the light of my life. She makes me smile every day and she's the reason I wake up in the morning. Thank you. But this is exactly why people stay so guarded at work these days. I'm 40, and when I first started working, the office culture was always work hard, play hard. And many coworkers were my friends. We'd go to the bar after work and things like that. About 5 years ago, I got written up for talking about how bad my neighbor I had just moved into was, and that I didn't feel safe walking alone at night and definitely wouldn't recommend a woman walking alone. I got written up because a coworker overheard this conversation and wasn't comfortable with the implied topic of rape. That's all it takes. No further action was taken, but I still have that hanging over my head. I know it's on record. I know there is an anonymous woman that is actively avoiding me pretending to have trauma. I am polite and professional with coworkers now, and they don't even know where I live anymore and nothing about my personal life. OP here did nothing wrong, but he did make a coworker uncomfortable. That's enough these days. It doesn't matter if that person has justification to be uncomfortable. They can claim in and then make it a problem for their employer by claiming hostile work environment and so on. Even unjustified, it's time and expense and risk for a company. So that is the way it is today. And now I work fully remote and companies no longer get my enthusiasm. And my coworkers do not get anything more than professionalism from me. I had a slightly different, yet very similar, experience. I didn't imply anything because I didn't say anything like any of what was later related by this woman. It simply didn't occur. Lots of people were right there, thank goodness. When I was approached about it, I offered reassurance that I wasn't even talking about any such thing. I was then told that I hadn't actually done anything wrong, but it was still a problem because the other person felt upset by what they thought they overheard me say. I've been working in an office for about 3 years and never had an office job. I knew from the jump to keep my mouth closed. Be nice, but don't do a lot of talking. I'm 6'3" black man. I don't know anything I say misconstrued. I work with mainly women and they all say I am the quiet one. Nice women, but they talk about some stuff sometimes not appropriate for work. Edit/update. So I met with HR at 4 today. Apparently, multiple coworkers who had overheard the conversation stopped by HR through the day to give their side and weigh in. I wasn't in trouble, they just wanted my side of things. It checked out with what everyone else has said too. I still don't know which of my crew stopped by, but I owe them my life. I offered to show my wife's blog and our rep, who is a really nice girl, told me that if it didn't affect my work, it was irrelevant. The story had been corroborated enough by others. HR reiterated a lot of what y'all said. Even though Julia initiated a conversation, I shouldn't have jumped in. It was less of a scolding and more of a request to keep my nose out of other people's business. I'm sad because I thought Julia and I were friends. We talked about our mental health struggles, the hardships of the field we're in, and heavy things like that. Won't be having those conversations any further. Julia and I will no longer be paired on teams for patient care. I was told my part in the investigation was done, and they thanked me for my time. So I think I'm going to be okay. Before I left, I told HR that if weight loss or body image wasn't supposed to be a topic of conversation, they should consider enforcing that on a company level. We have a weight loss challenge. I suggested making it a fitness challenge instead. She said they'd take it into consideration. So that's it. I wrapped up my treatments. Everything will hopefully shake out. Haven't spoken to Julia. Hoping to avoid her for the near future. Thank you all for this sanity check. Now, to quote Clue, I'm gonna go home and sleep with my wife.